From the dawn of human consciousness, the divine has been a source of both fascination and fear. Gods embody the forces of nature, the mysteries of existence, and are the ultimate arbiters of fate. In many myths, gods are omnipotent beings, wielding powers beyond mortal comprehension, and to challenge such power is to defy the natural order, an act fraught with peril and profound consequences. Consider the archetype of the hero who dares to defy the gods. This hero is driven by a desperate need, a quest for justice, or a personal vendetta. The act of deicide, or god-killing, is not just a battle, it is a rebellion against the established cosmic order. And within the stories in which deicide is presented, the hero's journey becomes a metaphor for human ambition and the insatiable quest for power and control. Yet, what are the consequences of such an audacious act? When a god is slain, the balance of the universe is disrupted. The hero, once a mere mortal, now holds the power to reshape reality. But with this power comes an immense burden. The slain god's domain, whether it be the sun, the sea, or the underworld, is left ungoverned. Chaos ensues, and the natural world spirals into disorder. Through the lens of 5 distinct works, each approaching the concept of deicide in its own unique way, we delve into the themes of power, ambition, and the human condition, uncovering the profound truths that emerge when mortals dare to defy the gods. Shadow of the Colossus, at first glance, seems pretty straightforward. You play as Wander, a young man on a quest to resurrect a girl named Mono. The task is to defeat 16 colossi. Simple, right? Well, that notion is incredibly wrong. Shadow of the Colossus subtly subverts our expectations by showing that no matter how good your intentions, they don't always lead to good outcomes. Each colossus isn't a mere monster to be vanquished, but a majestic, living monument of ancient power. As you scale these behemoths and strike them down, the game cunningly shifts your perception, transforming you from hero to potential villain. With each colossus's demise, the atmosphere darkens and Wander becomes increasingly corrupted. You begin to question whether these colossal beings are merely obstacles or integral parts of the world's balance. The melancholy grows as the realization dawns that every victory brings further decay to the once pristine land. By the end, you realize you've been manipulated all along. Those colossi were sealing away fragments of Dormin, an ancient evil god. By killing them, you've unleashed a far greater darkness than you could have imagined. Shadow of the Colossus presents a brutal lesson. Noble intentions can lead to devastating consequences. It forces us to ponder the cost of ambition and whether the end can ever truly justify the means. The journey of Wander becomes a reflection on the human condition, where the pursuit of one's desires can inadvertently bring about ruin and despair. What makes Shadow of the Colossus unique is that there is no singular moment or revelation that encapsulates this theme. The game's storytelling is fragmented, relying on the player's gradual realization of the consequences of Wander's actions, rather than a single climactic event. The lack of explicit narrative exposition forces the player to piece together the story through the environment, the changing world, and the subtle cues in Wander's transformation. This narrative technique mirrors the complexities of real-life desires and ambitions, where the true cost of our actions often becomes apparent only after the damage has been done. Despite the hero's best efforts, the act of deicide often leads to the perpetuation of cycles rather than their resolution. The death of a god is rarely the end of the story. It is the beginning of a new cycle of power, conflict, and transformation. This theme is deeply rooted in the nature of myth and storytelling. The hero's journey is a cycle, a pattern that repeats through time. The act of killing a god is a moment of disruption, but it is also a part of the larger narrative cycle. The hero's actions set in motion a series of events that will eventually lead to the rise of new gods, new conflicts, and new heroes. The inevitability of cycles serves as a reminder that the struggle for power and meaning is an ongoing process. There is no final resolution, no ultimate victory. Instead, the act of deicide is a moment of transformation, a turning point in the eternal dance of creation and destruction. And nowhere are the ramifications of deicide more felt than in the Soul series. In the worlds woven by From Software, deicide is not merely an act of defiance, but a ritual of cosmic significance. Nearly all of the Soulsborne games offer a haunting meditation on the cyclical nature of existence, where the death of gods is both an end and a beginning, a moment that echoes across the ages. The Soul series is a collection of dark fantasy action RPGs known for their intricate world building, challenging combat, and deep, often cryptic lore. The series includes Demon Souls, the Dark Souls trilogy, Bloodborne, and Elden Ring. Each game presents a decaying world on the brink of collapse, where players take on the role of a lone warrior, navigating treacherous landscapes, battling fearsome enemies, and facing godlike beings. In Dark Souls, you are not just a warrior, but a pawn in a grander scheme, a player in a cosmic cycle that has repeated for eons. The gods in this world are not all-powerful, eternal beings, but simply rulers of a decaying age, desperately clinging to their waning power. The choice to link the fire or let it fade is not a simple decision. It is a moment that will determine the fate of the world. But what does it mean to kill a god in this context? Is it an act of liberation, freeing the world from the oppressive rule of a dying pantheon? Or is it a perpetuation of the very cycle that has trapped countless souls in an endless loop of suffering and despair? When you strike down a god, you are not merely ending a life, you are rewriting the history of the world, altering the course of fate itself. But at what cost? The gods in Dark Souls are tragic figures, not because they are inherently noble, but because they are bound by their own divinity. They are trapped in their roles, forced to maintain a world that is slowly crumbling around them. Gwyn, the Lord of Cinder, sacrifices himself to keep the Age of Fire alive, but in doing so, he becomes a hollowed, burnt-out shell of his former self. The first flame feeds off of souls, and unfortunately, even in a best-case scenario, it cannot be sustained forever. His sacrifice only prolongs the inevitable, a desperate attempt to stave off the darkness that threatens to engulf everything. Yet, the darkness is not merely an enemy, it is a natural part of the world's cycle, just as necessary as the light. The act of killing a god in Dark Souls is thus fraught with ambiguity. Are you a hero, ending an era of tyranny, or a pawn, playing into the hands of forces far beyond your understanding? And then there's Elden Ring, a world even more complex and enigmatic, where the very fabric of reality is shaped by the influence of outer gods and their avatars. The Lands Between is a shattered realm, its gods broken, its laws fragmented. Here, Deicide is not just a rebellion against divine rule, but an act of cosmic significance, with consequences that ripple across the very structure of the universe. In Elden Ring, the gods are not merely rulers of the world, they are its architects. Their wills and desires woven into the very landscape. The death of a god in this world is not merely the fall of a ruler, it is a seismic shift in the reality of the Lands Between. As you traverse this world, slaying gods and demigods, you are not just changing the balance of power, you are rewriting the laws of existence itself. But what does it mean to take on such a burden? In killing a god, do you become a god yourself, inheriting their responsibilities, their flaws, and their inevitable downfall? Or are you merely a destroyer, leaving a void where once there was order, however flawed?
I fear that you have borne witness to the whole of it. The conceits, the hypocrisy of the world built upon the Earth Tree. The follies of men. Their bitter suffering. Is there no hope for redemption? The answer, sadly, is clear. There never was any hope. They were each of them defective, unhinged from the start. Marika herself, and the fingers that guided her. And this is what troubles me. No matter our efforts, if the roots are rotten, then we have little recourse. Ever-young Mikola saw things for what they were. He knew that his bloodline was tainted, his roots mired in madness. A tragedy if ever there was one. That he would feel compelled to renounce everything when the blame lay squarely with the mother.
The gods of Elden Ring are beings of immense power, but they are also deeply flawed, their divinity tainted by ambition, corruption, and madness. By killing them, you are not just dismantling a system of power, you are challenging the very nature of divinity. Yet in doing so, you are also forced to confront the darkness within yourself. The possibility that in slaying these gods, you are not freeing the world, but dooming it to a new and perhaps even darker age. In Elden Ring, the path to becoming an Elden Lord is not just a journey of power, but one of immense responsibility. The game subtly reminds us that the decisions we make as prospective Elden Lords will ripple across the lands between, impacting its inhabitants in ways we cannot fully predict or control. From the outset, the story makes it clear that our choices will not be universally beneficial, nor will they be met with unanimous approval. As we navigate the fractured world, encountering various factions, beings, and agendas, we are confronted with the harsh reality that no decision we make will please everyone. The various endings of Elden Ring, whether aligning with the greater will, embracing the chaos of the frenzied flame, or forging a new path entirely, each carry their own consequences, reshaping the world in ways that inevitably lead to discord and dissent among those who dwell within it. Elden Ring and Dark Souls thus pose a series of unsettling questions. Can the cycle of divine rule ever truly be broken? Or is the death of a god merely a prelude to the rise of a new, equally flawed order? In slaying a god, are you an agent of change, or merely a pawn in a cycle that will continue long after you are gone? These games do not offer any easy answers, leaving the player to ponder the weight of their actions and the true nature of the gods they have slain. In the end, the act of deicide in these worlds is not a simple victory, but a complex, often tragic event, where the line between hero and villain, savior and destroyer, is blurred beyond recognition. In the face of such overwhelming power, what role does the human spirit play? The stories of Deicide often highlight the indomitable will of humanity, the relentless drive to challenge the status quo and forge a new path. This human spirit is characterized by resilience, determination, and an unwavering belief in the possibility of change. The act of killing a god is a testament to the strength of the human will. It is a declaration that mortals are not bound by fate or the whims of capricious deities. Instead, they possess the power to shape their destiny, to defy the gods, and to carve out a new future. This theme resonates deeply with the human experience, reflecting our innate desires to overcome adversity and assert our agency in a chaotic world. However, the consequences of such defiance are complex and multifaceted. The hero's victory over the gods is often bittersweet, marked by personal sacrifice and the recognition that true power comes with a heavy price. The stories of Deicide remind us that while the human spirit is capable of great feats, it is also vulnerable to the corrupting influence of power and the burden of divine responsibility. In the universe of Asura's wrath, the gods are not untouchable, omnipotent beings. They are fallible, corrupt, and above all, they can bleed. This game takes the concept of deicide and transforms it into a spectacle of cosmic proportions, where divine power is challenged not by cunning or strategy, but by sheer, unbridled fury. Asura, the protagonist, begins as one of the 8 Guardian Generals, a group of powerful demigods tasked with protecting the world from dark forces known as the Goma. However, after betrayal by his fellow generals, Asura is stripped of his power, his family is taken from him, and he is cast down from the heavens. What follows is not just a quest for revenge, but an all-out assault on the heavens themselves. Asura's wrath is a tale of rebellion, but it is rebellion driven by a father's fury and a warrior's unyielding resolve. Asura is a character defined by his rage, a rage so intense that it transcends mortal limits and shatters the very foundations of the divine order. His journey is one of relentless determination, where every punch, every scream, and every defiance is a challenge to the gods who wronged him. The gods in Asura's wrath are not benevolent overseers, but beings who have become corrupted by their own power. They exploit the mortals they are supposed to protect, twisting their divine authority into a means of control and subjugation. These gods are more like tyrants, ruling through fear and violence rather than wisdom and compassion. Asura's battles against the gods are nothing short of titanic. The game is a continuous escalation of power, where each encounter pushes the boundaries of what it means to challenge the divine. Asura does not fight these gods with strategy or cunning. He meets them head-on with raw, overwhelming force. His strength grows with his anger, and his anger is limitless. But Asura's wrath is not just a story about one man's quest for vengeance. It is a critique of the very nature of divinity. The gods Asura faces are shown to be deeply flawed beings who, despite their immense power, are driven by greed, pride, and a lust for control. They have lost sight of their duty to protect the world, instead focusing on maintaining their own dominance. Asura's wrath is not just a personal vendetta, it is a force of justice, a rejection of the idea that power alone can determine right and wrong. The game poses a crucial question. If the gods themselves are corrupt, who then has the right to judge them? Asura, through his relentless pursuit of those who wronged him, becomes the embodiment of this challenge. He is not content with merely defeating the gods, he seeks to dismantle the very system that allowed them to reign unchecked. Through his struggle, Asura transforms from a fallen demigod into a symbol of rebellion against tyranny. His wrath, initially a personal response to betrayal, evolves into something much greater, a force that topples gods and reshapes the very fabric of reality. His story is one of unrelenting perseverance, where the power of sheer determination overcomes even the mightiest of divine beings. In the end, Asura's wrath leaves us with a powerful message, that even the mightiest gods can fall if they are corrupt, and that the strength of a single individual's resolve can challenge the very heavens. Asura's fury becomes the catalyst for change, proving that divinity is not an unassailable bastion, but something that can be confronted and, if necessary, destroyed. In the relentless world of Doom, the concept of god killing takes on a different form. Here, the divine isn't revered or worshipped, but rather represented as the embodiment of evil, Hell's demonic forces that seek to annihilate all of existence. The Doomslayer, a figure of unmatched ferocity, stands as the universe's last line of defense against this encroaching darkness. While Doom may not involve the direct act of deicide, it compels us to consider the Doomslayer's role in this cosmic battle, and what it reveals about the nature of godhood. The Doomslayer's unyielding war against Hell's legions places him in a realm that borders on the divine. His ability to push back the entirety of Hell's forces, something no other being has achieved, suggests that he is more than just a warrior. He is a force unto himself, almost godlike in his power and determination. But what does it mean for a mortal, driven by vengeance and justice, to ascend to such heights? Doom presents a world where the line between God and man is blurred. The demons of Hell, while not gods in the traditional sense, wield immense power and command legions, yet the Doomslayer cuts through them with an almost supernatural ease, suggesting that the power of godhood may not lie in divine birthright, but in the sheer will to defy the impossible. This raises intriguing questions about the ideological nature of godhood. If the Doomslayer, through his relentless pursuit of justice, can stand toe-to-toe with beings of immense power, what does that say about the nature of divinity? Is godhood defined by inherent power, or is it something that can be achieved through extraordinary feats? Does the Doomslayer become a god in his own right by virtue of his unparalleled accomplishments? Doom challenges us to rethink the concept of divine power. In a universe where the forces of Hell are almost godlike in their malevolence, the Doomslayer's success in holding them at bay suggests that divinity might not be a matter of origin, but of action. His journey forces us to consider whether godhood is an exclusive domain of the divine, or if it is something that can be attained by those who dare to stand against overwhelming odds. Ultimately, Doom leaves us with the question, if a mortal can achieve what the Doomslayer has, does he not transcend his humanity and touch upon the divine? And if so, what does that imply about the very nature of gods and the power they wield? The Slayer's relentless fight against Hell's forces becomes more than just a battle for survival. It becomes a reflection on what it means to be truly powerful, truly godlike. What do these 5 narratives whisper to us from the depths of their stories? Each presents a unique encounter with the divine, yet they all touch upon something more profound, more universal. The complex moral terrain we navigate when we dare to defy what is considered sacred, the seductive, often corrosive nature of power, and how it can alter even the noblest of intentions, the enduring strength of human resolve even when faced with forces far beyond our comprehension, and the unforeseen consequences that ripple out from our actions, regardless of how pure or justified they may seem. These works don't just tell stories, they challenge us to reflect, to question. They invite us to ponder the nature of divinity, the essence of power, and the true cost of our desires. Is there ever a clear line between right and wrong when gods themselves are at stake? What does it truly mean to take on the mantle of godhood, and can such a burden ever be borne without corruption? Perhaps these stories don't seek to provide answers, but rather to open doors to deeper questions. Questions that each of us must grapple with in our own way. So I leave it up to you to come up with your own ideas and interpretations, and let me know what you think in the comments below. This video took an incredibly long time for me to make, so I truly hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you all in the next one.